Now, how has South of Market changed in 10 years?
Well, I find it ironic that south of Market is known as Soma, which is also the name of the mind-numbing drug from Brave New World. I'm sure there's no coincidence. What do I think of Soma? Yeah, you'd have to see it. I mean, it's a place where the live-work loft was developed, the concept of it, because artists moved into abandoned warehouses and turned them into workspaces. So, and they successfully got zoning laws changed to allow them to. And then what happened was, when the Moscone Center was built, the area around it suddenly became much more valuable, and so in the first dot-com boom in the late 90s, that area got very expensive, and then you had developers building fake live-work spaces to get around the loophole of being able to pay the zoning and construction and mitigation fees that all developers have to pay. So, and so ever since then, it's been sort of a fight. And then came the tech boom, like 10 years ago. Everything happened 10 years ago. Uber, Lyft, Google sort of took off. Airbnb.
When did that all come here, Peter?
Like 2000. Come here. It's from here.
5 years
Not
ago.
come here.
No,
From here.
5 years ago. Like 5-ish is when the
10.
city went.
10
No,
is
but
when
5 years is when the city went downhill.
I think.
There's a
Well, yeah, it started
specific
like
mark.
10 years ago, and then it started 5 years ago when you're starting notice all those places that you used to go to that you think this could never close. Everybody loves this place. The Carnelian Room. You know the Carnelian Room?
On top of Triple Nickel Cal,
That's right.
555 California Street.
Nations Bank bought Bank of America, and now it's headquartered in Raleigh, North Carolina. It is now called the 555 California Building. That's right. Walter Shorenstein owned it, and then he died, and then they sold it. Or somebody sold it. Or it was the other way around.
Could that be Doug Shorenstein?
Wouldn't know. You mean Lil Dougie?
Yes, Junior, if you will.
Yeah. So the Carnelian Room was a place there you had to have a coat and tie. I had heard that the owners that took over the building said, we want to close this restaurant, and the owners of the restaurant said, hey, we got $1 million operation here. This is been open for 40 years. It was in Towering Inferno. It's, William Holden sat right over there. And I'm sure they said, who's William Holden? Because they said, you know what, that may be fine for millionaires, but we're billionaires. So
The tech people, Peter.
yeah,
The tech people.
so you mere millionaires get lost. And
What happened to it?
and the millionaire said, what just happened? And so now,
Video, Peter.
so now it's just
What is it?
it's their private offices, and so that's sort of the
It's not a restaurant.
sort of the tale of San Francisco, where the city government, too many elected leaders were
Getting baked of cash on the desk.
Well, what's interesting? The tech boom. So basically, in the old days, you had your hotels and tourism, you got your shipping, you got your insurance and banking, right? Your real estate. What are the other big industries?
When? What year?
Up until the turn of the century, really. Turn of the century to turn of the century. And all of a sudden, here comes tech. And they get to sit on, everybody's got a chair at the table, and here comes tech, and they've got like a throne, like Thor, at the table. Everyone else has like folding chairs. And it's like, hey, we're travel and tourism. I had a conversation with a guy about how tech is creating a lot of jobs in the city, and and that it's I said, the amount of revenue, it brings in a lot of money into the city. And I said, the amount of revenue that tech brings in is a mere dirt clod to the amount of revenue that travel and tourism brings in. And yes, it's a growing industry, but travel and tourism, and the people who work at travel and tourism, make much less, because we're talking about your snow globe vendors and your T-shirt hawkers and your shuttle bus or tour bus drivers and your concierge as well. Well, actually, there's always. Well, actually, that's part of it. Yeah. So
I guess you don't need to ask any questions, Dave.
yeah. So there's your answer.
Well,
What's the question?
I do have one question. Now, 10 years after all this stuff came in, is it true that there are more coffee bars than gay bars in San Francisco currently?
Well, you know what? I don't know, but I will say that a lot of bars have closed. You know,
Good bars.
the one of the deleterious effects of the tech boom is when you're 25 and you're like, yeah, you know, this is great. I'm making $100,000 a year, but they're also making you work 16 hours a day, and they're like, hey man, their bosses are called project managers, and they're team members, and they say, so you want to you want to work from home, you want to sit in a cafe and on your laptop with a latte, with a soul patch and a man bun, and they're like, yeah, totally there. And say, great, it'll take you 16 hours a day to complete what we need. But you can do whatever you want, man.
I think you just described Google.
Yeah.
All of them. Indeed, the free haircuts, the free massage, free
Well, that's the
meals.
thing about the campuses is that there was a story in a newspaper, on the radio, about this guy who worked for Google, and he drove all the way down to the Silicon Valley from the Marina District. And then he would work 16 hours a day, drive back, and he's like, I'm only in my apartment at night and on the weekends, and then sometimes he has to work on the weekends. So he bought an RV, and he's paying like $3,000 a month. So he bought an RV, and he parked in the parking lot, like Rockford Files, and
Or Trapper John M.D.
Or Trapper John M.D. I was about to say that. Actually filmed at Hollywood Presbyterian Hospital on Sunset Boulevard, not in San Francisco.
Good to know.
Yeah. I wonder whatever happened to Pernell Roberts. I think he died. So this guy was saying, why it says Google provides a gym with showers. There's massages. They have food all day long, haircuts, a pub. Yeah, they've got the foosball in the office, and it's like. Says, why do I need to live anywhere? I just sleep here and I just go to work there, and so why pay for? And that's what Google's seduction is that you never. It's like Hotel California.
I don't know what that is.
You can check in anytime you like. You just can never leave.
That's right. So if I'm working 16 hours a day, I'd rather have a coffee than a drink at the end of the day.
They have free alcohol, free
Well,
healthcare.
therein lies the problem with the nightlife. San Francisco has always been a rather up until the mid '60s or even the late '60s. It was kind of a mid-sized port town, but then came the counterculture and the gay movement and the
Hey, Peter, you have to
Black
show
Power.
Dave 3.0. San Francisco 3.0, the documentary about this.
Oh, 2.0. Yeah.
Don't forget the beatniks.
Take it out, Peter.
Right.
Take it out of the library.
Well, the Beatniks were sort of the precursor, but once the Summer of Love happened, then you got your well, it was more like the political radicals were in Berkeley, and the tune in, turn on, drop out hippies were in San Francisco, but Black Power, American Indian movement, the Native Americans took over Alcatraz for a year and a half. What else? We have the gay liberation, all that sort of.
Any women's lib actions in San Francisco?
And that too. Yes, that's true. And we got a special revolution for the ladies. So it's ladies' night here at the Revolution Cafe. So.
Well, Peter, thank you very much. We're going to do this again, but we'll let you go for now.
All right. The Salesforce Tower is the tallest building west of the Mississippi. And the architect who designed it just died.
And are palm trees native to California?
They are not. This was the
address.
This is Mission and First.
Salesforce Transit Center. This is fast.
So this is going the new Grand Central Station of the West. So all of a sudden, right now they have buses here. They're planning to put Caltrain, going to electrify Caltrain like in Europe and put it underground. It's going to terminate here when the new high-speed rail is built. It will terminate
Amtrak
here.
is coming here.
Amtrak. So this was opened a year and a half ago, and then after like 6 weeks, they shut it for like a year because they found crab critters. And they had to check everyone.
Building that had the crab, that had the leaning.
So we got 6 good weeks out of it, and then
it closed down for like
see,
a
that's
year.
when you have and that's so the same agency that oversaw that also oversaw the all the subway, the new central subway rails that were wrong size, and they have to after they laid them all down, then they have to rip them all out again.
It's all connected.
I'm glad that people were fired over that.
Yeah, so now we have a new.
The right people were fired, the right ones.
Well, I don't know. Well, now we have a new. Well, they
talking
basically
about.
said we're not giving you any more money. You guys keep on screwing up like this, and our subway's like 10 years behind. May I remind you? Yeah, this city built in the middle of a depression.
This could be a job for him.
Two Transbay bridges and a World's Fair.
World's Fair, which costs a lot.
I don't know. They made an artificial
During the
island,
Depression.
and this is all And we can't build We can't build a mile-and-a-half subway with the wrong rails. I mean, come on.
And he screwed this up. This is his huge project.
Yeah.
He went to the grand opening. It was like full. Wasn't there bands playing?
There's bands and
music
stuff
and
like that.
food
Okay,
and everything,
hang
and
on.
then
Here we
closed down.
go.
Okay, we're going to break now because we have a liftoff.
Because you're the first one doing the right with us.
I know. It's my first time being in here.
Peter, didn't you tell me that part of the homeless situation, that 30% of the homeless are former tenants in San Francisco? Yeah, a third of the homeless that they can count since 2010 were formerly housed, which means they didn't lose their house because they were on drugs or criminals.
They didn't move into San Francisco because it's hot weather or whatever. So that's why they come here.
Yeah.
And they lived here and had jobs. They didn't have a life.
Right,
No.
and they got evicted, and so a lot of people moved out, but those that didn't and never had a place to go. So as the economy got better and people benefited, those people actually were kind of disenfranchised or evicted. Yeah, as the economy got better, landlords and property owners took advantage of the tech boom workers that were coming into the city and getting paid much more money. It's really all over the Bay
The
Area.
landlords just triple the rent. They know the new tax people that work here have money. They triple the rent instantly, and the average people living here can't pay that rent. And they found ways to do it all legally, loopholes.
They found ways to loophole the owner movement evictions, the Ellis Act, which says well, basically it's an owner movement. The Ellis Act says that if you own a house and you're renting it out, or a property, you can say, I want to move into that property and evict the tenant, which is fine. But if you're a property management company that owns 500 properties and you invoke the Ellis Act, that's kind of a gross injustice, because you're not really just it's like if you rented your cabin to somebody and you said, I want to move into that cabin, then I'm going to invoke this law that allows me to evict the tenant, my renter, so I can move in, or a family member. But if you own 500 cabins on the shore, just going to rent them all.
You're showing an analogy for Dave for Green Day.
Yeah, well, I just think where it happens on the shore. So is this Ellis Act different from owner-occupied evictions? No, the Ellis Act is an owner-occupied eviction. So if you own your cabin, if you own 500 cabins and you invoke the Ellis Act, you can't move into 500 cabins. You only move into one. Mm-hmm. So they're sort of exploiting the law, because the property management company can Ellis Act us and say,
Not us, though. You said
no, yeah, they could. Well, I mean, if it's they could
we're
say
not desirable, right?
we're moving in my cousin
They
or
say
whatever.
the cousin's moving in,
Yeah.
and that's what they really do it.
Or they move the cousin in 500 different times for a month. Yeah.
And it's just empty. You'll see empty apartments all over the city. That's another kind of scam thing. These
Yeah.
brand new skyscrapers are empty. When they
There's
build
a lot
these
of
fancy
foreign money.
things, it's foreign money.
So
They
they
don't live
park
there.
their money overseas to avoid taxes.
They take all these apartments. I walk in the middle of the night, midnight. They're all empty.
Oh,
yeah.
that's the new-
They don't get it till
So
it's money.
the new big money.
They just invest China. What countries? China.
Well, I
They don't live here
had
at all.
drinks with some friends from the Millennium, and they told me that the Indonesian money is the newest money that's being taken out of the country and parked in different.
Not the Middle East? No.
Well, there's that too.
There's always that. massage lessons.
Yeah.
Not really anymore.
Well, I'm sure. I mean, I
The
don't know.
government's just empty. I don't even get the tax write-off loophole. I don't know.
Why don't the homeless just squat in those empty
That's what I'm
apartments?
saying. People have gone to the mission. The mission is almost completely destroyed. It's not skyscrapers, but it's big, boxy, super expensive, boring-looking apartments. They've been empty too.
You're a non-activist and a non-muckraker.
Well, when muck needs to be raked, I will be there. But I know some people that's what they do. And God bless them. I always say, I got, those guys that go there, you see planning commission meetings on the public access, on the government channel. And there's always some nut that's got a handful of folders, but they expect the people to read them. And, but they are, as I said, those nuts that go to those public hearings, those library commissions and planning commission hearings,
City hall meetings.
something like that, they are the thin membrane between what we have now and outright rampant corruption. So God bless the nutballs that show up at council hearings and complain about
They're keeping some people honest.
Yeah, well, they're
Peter's apartment for us. Peter's friends do this every day at City Hall. That's how long is Peter being at City Hall today? Where they go?
Very, very good.
St. Anne's